Hello, everyone. We are live again with yet another author live chat series. Today, Sunday, 30th January 2022, 8 p.m. CST. Sunday series, we have real life inspiring stories from real people out there, inspiring people out there. And this week, we are going to talk about parenting in the age of the fourth industrial revolution. And we have author Roland joining us today to talk about his new book. So here's a little bit about author Roland. He is a business agility professional, SAFE program consultant, and transition coach with more than 2 decades of experience within IT, program, and also project management. Roland was born in Cameroon, where he started his career in IT with a small internet service provider before moving to South Africa, where he spent more than a decade of in post-apartheid South Africa in the program and project management sector. Roland was amongst the first team of 11 selected executive support in project management by the National School of Government. And during his time with them, he trained and coached thousands of public service executives on behalf of the National Treasury of South Africa through the National School of Government as part of the move to improve service delivery, which included e-government initiatives. As an education, training, and development practitioner, Roland created a support network for accredited IT skills development startups, many of whom are training thousands across Southern Africa every year while creating jobs. Roland is student access advocate for iCode Edu and EduTech said startup operating out of Dallas, Texas, which provides online coding lessons and futuristic courses aimed at preparing kids for a digital future. So he is currently living and working for Silicon Valley Bank in the USA. Roland is also a public speaker and has been invited to speak at many workshops and conferences. He's also a change agent and activist and has advocated for many causes, including tech rights, good governance, gender equality, and children rights. A firm believer in the rights of every human being to be free and have equal opportunity to take charge of their own destiny, Roland has been greatly influenced by the life and teachings of Nelson Mandela. He holds an MBA, is an SPC, PMP, and ETDP practitioner, and is a member of both Project Management South Africa and the Project Management Institute in the USA. So, without further ado, let's welcome Roland to the show. Hello, Roland. Thank you for joining us for today's show. It's a pleasure to have you here. And how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Jasmina.
Awesome. Right. It's a pleasure to have you on this show to
Mm.
talk more about your book. And so, before we actually dive into today's topic, I think it would be great to hear a little bit more about yourself, something that the audience has not known yet from yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm a parent, a concerned parent. Never really had writing as one of the things that I wanted to do, but as a concerned parent, I started looking for solutions, as the world is changing around us, and I'm trying to find solutions, locally for myself and seeing that it's affecting a lot of parents. I'm also a free thinker, love asking questions why, that's probably the only thing about me that you haven't mentioned.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right. So today we are here to actually talk about your new book, and I believe this is your debut book.
Yep.
Am I right to say that?
Absolutely. Yep, you're right.
Yes.
Mm.
Awesome. So parenting in the age of the fourth industrial revolution, I think a lot of parents right now, especially now in the post-COVID situation where things are changing rapidly, it is a challenge for both the parents and also for the kids, today's kids, to actually to be learning about new skills. And I think your book definitely comes, at the right time in order to shed light, to also help explain further about how important it is to look at the world from a different perspective. So, when did the idea of, wanting to write this book actually started? And, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's been in the making for years, but it wasn't really about a book per se. It was me being there, having worked in skills development a lot, and working in IT, and thinking about how do I, as a parent, best help my own kids. That's really where it started, and I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions because I could clearly see that there was a gap between where education was taking them and how fast the world was changing. Maybe it's because I was so involved in the IT sector, but I started asking a lot of questions and thinking, how can I best help my kids to guide them? Because the world is so changing that the world in which they will live tomorrow is definitely here already and happening. And it doesn't seem like a lot of governments and educations and schools and communities are making a lot of effort, but it doesn't seem like we're catching up. And I started thinking there must be something as parents that we can do extra in order to support the efforts around, because this change affects everybody. There's just so much disruption going on. And when I started looking for those solutions, then I started realizing and talking with other parents. I realized that it was a big problem for most parents. It was not just something that I faced. And it was even much more difficult for parents who were not even aware of that there was a revolution to begin with.
Mhm.
And I started thinking to myself, this is something that I need to talk about out there, have a conversation. How do I go about doing that? Since I'm not naturally a driver, sorry, a writer. I'm more of a back, office person. I started thinking, okay, how do I go about this? Should I start a blog? Should I start some channel and start talking? And these were not all things that I was really, that came natural to me. Then I thought, how about I just write a book, about it and create a conversation? I might not have all the pieces together, I might not be the best expert at parenting, but how about I take a stab at it as a concerned parent, who sees it from a perspective of what any other parent would see in a world that's fast changing. And that's exactly how the idea came about. I started putting my thoughts together. And over the years, as I saw areas that were key and important that we needed to have a discussion around, the chapters spent out. And eventually, at a certain point, I'm like, you know what? I need to get a team together and find out how you really write and publish a book, just like that. And kept going on, especially as I kept interacting with my kids and kept facing these challenges as they grew up. And eventually, here we are.
Mm. I think it must have taken quite a bit of a journey for you in writing and even trying to come up with ideas and then putting it together and then publishing. It's just a whole lot of process, which can be really taxing and also exciting at the same time. And yeah, so talking about the book,
Hmm.
why did you decide that why is it so critical for now for parents to align their parenting to fourth industrial revolution, or at least get involved in the conversation? Why do you think it is important?
It's so important for me, for parents most especially, to get involved in this discussion. Number one, because if you look at the way that companies have been going about it, they understand it very well. They know us more than we do, right? Today you go online and you Google for a pair of shoes, and suddenly it's on. You go to Facebook, they're right in front of you. Amazon knows more about you than you do. You know,
Uh-huh.
and we take all of these things lightly. But what's actually happening is this whole digital revolution is changing the way the world, works, both socially. That's the first thing. How we interact with machines, and software and all of that. And the second thing is that it's actually impacting the way in which work, would happen tomorrow. And that's really the concerning part, because you want your kid to have a bright future, to have a better life, to have an enabling environment, to have their
Mhm.
best foot out there, right? As a parent, that's what you want to do. And if every other person is doing this and the parents are not involved in it, then there is a high chance that your kid might have had an opportunity to become something better in future, and you just don't know it because you're not part of that conversation. So I was looking for a way to take that conversation from right up there in business, in government, and bring it to the homes, where the conversation should be happening, because I feel like parents are a huge part of that, and they are left out, because they are the channels through which their kids look up, would get information, would be directed, and so on and so forth. So it was really important for me to as I face challenges, to be able to try and see if it was just me, so that no kid tomorrow is at a disadvantage simply because a parent didn't know.
Right. And talking about the reluctance of parents, I think there will be a part of parents, a group of parents, a large group of parents, hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
who are excited to talk about this, who are excited about getting involved in the conversation, trying to understand how the future is going to change, and getting things rolling. But I think there will also be a group of parents who are not really receptive to the new ideas, right?
Mm.
So have you actually encountered parents like this, and tell us about that.
Oh, yes, I have a lot of them. I've had a conversation with lots of parents. I actually had a parent out of, Africa asked the question, are you not sure this is end time games? So, so depending on our cultural beliefs and a whole lot of other factors, different people would have different ways of looking at it. But Jasmine, change, that in my experience, is one thing that's never easy, right? But the only
Mm,
thing that will never change also is change, and those who don't change with the times eventually get left back. That's it. That should not stop us from trying to get the message outside there. Just maybe the parent who is resistant today is because they love their kids so much and they are so protective that they really want to be sure before they get in there. So until we start having these conversations among parents, then we're not going to be able to bring the information in a way that the parents who are not receptive will eventually become receptive, right? And I guess
mhm.
that's really where we are now. Yep.
Right. And talking about the revolution having a huge impact in the workplace, and it will inevitably transform the workplace of tomorrow. However, coming at coming to look at the education system that we have today, do you think it is actually capable of ready to cope with that change, with that transition, to produce the right skillful younger generation for the workplace of tomorrow?
Well, I'm no labor expert, but from in my research, as I wrote the book, clearly it's not ready. I've not found one research out of, be it the United States, labor statistics, so whatever I've tried to check, I've not found one that says that it is ready and capable to. In fact, more I find companies that are concerned, big business, your Silicon Valley big heavyweights that are concerned about, where are we gonna get the people for the future, because the truth is that the pace of change is faster than any education system can really be able to keep up with. And remember that there's a lot of discussion going on depending on what country you're talking about, and a lot of policies that needs to be changed, and a lot of bottlenecks. And now you need to come and start telling traditional universities to make these changes so fast. And there are a lot of them who are already doing. I found a lot of very brilliant initiatives coming out of MIT, out of Harvard, but those are few elites. What about the rest of the billions of the kids around the world, right? So clearly education system probably would not keep up, but there is also the emergence of new skills development avenues also, and universities that are picking up, this new trend where it's easy for people to reskill and retool, in order to quickly be able to catch up with the skills of the future. But for the kids specifically, I feel that the parents most especially need to be involved in this discussion, because when you get bombarded with so much information from so many places, somebody needs to put it into context, have a plan for that specific kid, and have them involved in it, so that they're not too distracted and they are closing whatever gaps the current education system is not able to cover. That's the only way we're going to deal with it, and that's why parents are a very important part of this conversation.
Mm-hmm. And in looking at technology, and looking at um, s- right now, we have parents who are really concerned about screen time, limiting screen time, and making sure that the kids are actually exposed to motor skills. They are exposed to things other than the smartphone, like your traditional toys or traditional
mm,
learning tools,
mm,
things like that. So I think there is a concern, rising concern among parents, regarding the screen time, regarding how much access the
mm,
kids have to smartphones and things like that. So over here, I mean, your book, right? So in the first few pages, you
mm,
have actually mentioned about the negative effects, like how parents can actually help children to get the benefits of technology without the negative effects, because I think it is a struggle to make sure, it's a struggle
yes,
to make sure that you make the most out of it, but
mm,
without the smartphones distracting you, without those things distracting you. I mean, we have read in the past, we have read like how um, people who invent these technologies,
mm,
they actually do not give the tools, the smartphones or whatever that is, to their own kids. We know that, right? We
mm,
know that
mm,
the inventor of ipad doesn't
mm,
encourage his own children to actually play with it. So you see, I think there is this conflicting opinion over here, but I think it is a good thing to look at the benefits, and
mm,
also teach kids about how they to not to
mm,
be overwhelmed with the negative aspects of it, or addiction, or whatever that is.
mm.
What do you think, how do you think that people can actually balance this book?
Well, you are absolutely right. We're not saying that technology comes with its negative effects. I'm not too sure about. I've never really gone into more research about, whether Steve Jobs did tell his kids not to play with them. But but what I do know as a parent is that there is a lot of the negative effects that comes with this change. Like I said, every change comes with pain, right? We have issues with screen time, like you said. How much time should kids be spending on all these gadgets? That's the first thing, because they could become very addictive. They could
Mm-hmm.
also get to a point where kids could also become very lonely, not have a lot of social interaction. We have issues of a lot of bullying online, that happens a lot. There's even issues of abuse that's possible, blackmail, and there's so many other reasons why parents need to be very careful around this discussion. But
Mm-hmm.
that does not mean that, in my opinion, that does not mean that we should keep kids away from them, because that is the world in which they will live. As parents, we have a responsibility to keep our kids safe, but we need to be able to have a plan around. And the best way to go about it is to have a plan around what they're doing online. Know who they're talking to, know what that screen time they're spending on, making sure that you have a plan around extracurricular activities, most especially, so that when they're getting onto their gadgets or their iPad or their phone, you know for sure that they're going into a coding lesson, for example, from this time to this time. Then you make sure also that there are timeouts, and they are able to get involved in other activities beyond what's happening on the phone. You know, uh,
Mm-hmm.
they need physical interaction with other people. They need to be in outdoor activities and so many other things that still makes their whole being as a kid whole, right? But we cannot shift away from the revolution or keep away our kids just because there are negative consequences. Because hey, the benefit in their future would outweigh those negatives. Because there is a high chance that you could, in my opinion, again, you could be a very protective parent tomorrow and end up tomorrow looking at your kid a little bit far behind other kids simply because you were trying to be protective, right?
Yes, absolutely right. I think it's more about striking a balance between
Exactly.
the good and the bad,
Yeah.
which can be really overwhelming, like you said. Can also be very challenging, but I think it is something that's very inevitable. I think parents in today's world just need to embrace that.
Yeah.
So you were talking about working with kids to choose the right extracurricular activities
Mm,
that are fun, yet
mm,
prepare them to benefit
mm,
for the revolution. So now, how do parents who are not tech savvy
mm,
even begin,
mhm.
doing this?
Well, that's a bigger part of that conversation now, because a lot of parents are not tech savvy, and that makes sense, right? But like I've always said, when you have love for your child, you don't even have to become an expert in everything, that you need to do for them. There's a lot of things that we become experts simply because, that's what we got to do for our kids. That's why we're here, right? And hence you don't need to be a tech specialist, but you can become very involved. And when I say very involved, it means, simply know, what is it that's outside there that I can incorporate into my kids' life, as opposed to just buying them this new iPad and giving it to them and say, hey, go find your way, And once you start thinking like that, then as a parent, you would know that, okay, I might not know what maybe probably coding is, but I know that coding lessons are good for my kid. How about I get them into one? Okay, I've seen beautiful camps online, where kids go into, they are repeatable, they have strong backgrounds. How about I get my kid for next summer into one? You know, I hear kids today talking about becoming YouTubers, TikTokers. Those are the kind of things they're interested. That's their world, Instead of leaving them out there to just consume whatever, how about I really take some time and get them into some kind of program, to spend some time developing communication skills, public skills by doing something like that, So instead of running away from it, incorporate it in a way that benefits them and positions them for the future. Now let's talk about the future of financial management. The way you and I know money will be very different for them tomorrow. They might even look at coins and papers tomorrow as if it's something that should be, I don't know, that comes out of an ancient movie, because they probably would live in a world where they're busy with cryptos and all kinds. Who knows what else is coming with blockchain? Now
Right.
you want to start getting them into little camps and trainings like that, so that they are playing with these things. Start trading early. Start playing with them early, so that it prepares them for their own world in which they would live. Because I always say that there's this wise saying. I think it was a Roman philosopher who said that luck is opportunity that meets preparedness. They probably would be a lot of kids tomorrow that would think they were not lucky, or they are not lucky, simply because they were not prepared for the opportunities that are coming. And the only reason they were not prepared was because maybe parents didn't have a lot of information. But being tech savvy, I don't think you need to be tech savvy. All you need to do is start saying, okay, what is this revolution that is going on right under right under me now? How is it affecting my child? What can I do? Can I have this conversation with them? Sit down with them and say, okay, here are the things that you do online. What about we discuss the things that you also do offline, so that we can be able to have an array of things that you have in your portfolio of things that you do as a child in order to catch fun. You want to do ballet? Good. Okay, let's do ballet on Monday. You want to play tennis on Tuesday? That's good. Wednesday, do you want to go for a coding class? That would be awesome too. Have that mixture. Don't just prepare them for the world of today and make them happy for today. Think about where they would be tomorrow, because that's really where they look back at you as a parent and they are happy you were a parent because of the results. Yeah.
Now, I think one of the interesting questions over here that popped my mind is that now we are looking at these coding classes and these tech savvy extracurricular activities, which may be expensive, may cost some amount of investment from the parents, commitment from the parents every month. But you know however, I think these are the skills, these are also the skills that would help the alleviation of poverty, to eliminate poverty, and also to develop the economy in developing countries like Africa. So how do actually parents in these countries make it work for their kids?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. That has been one. I was born in Africa. I grew up in Africa, right? My story probably is the story of the fourth industrial revolution, also, right? Probably without that revolution, I don't even think I would have been able to afford any kind of life that was better for my kids, because I got introduced to computers, and that changed everything in one way or the other. Because I probably would consider myself underprivileged, just because you are underprivileged, because when people say underprivileged, we immediately assume they're either poor, and that's not true. When you say you're underprivileged, it simply means that you have the ability, but there is no enabling environment for you to be able to, reach your full potential, right? So, but having had parents that were able to guide me early and support, and my parents had no idea where the world was going to, right? Right? But having had such kind of parents that was able to support and push me through early and all of that, I've been thinking a lot and thinking, yes, Today coding lessons might be very expensive, and that's what happens when something is new, for parents. But unfortunately, that's the process we have to go through, and that is why, if you notice on the last chapter of my book, I talk about how governments, civil society, and others can get involved. Because in Africa, for example, I would want to first of all talk about maybe India and Philippines, then before I go to Africa. I was reading of late that there were 200,000 new jobs created in India just in the tech sector, and most of those jobs are outsourced, right? Working in the
Mhm.
US, UK, and all of that. Today, Philippines is one of the leaders in business process outsourcing, right? And if you look at all of this, it's because the governments were got involved very early enough, right? They made sure that kids, the curriculum was changed in a way that reflected what was happening in the future. They knew where the markets were, and that was the US and Europe, and made sure that kids were studying English and part of that. And today, companies are able to go to these countries and hire people, right? And bring in lots of money, $200 billion to India from people working out of India, right? That's a lot of money. And I kind of feel like there is a need, as parents do their bit, they need to also get involved in pressuring, or having a conversation at the level of their countries, their communities. How can these countries be able to start creating an enabling environment where poor kids can have access to, coding skills also at a young age, and other tech skills? Because I feel like this is the one single opportunity where a lot of countries, poor countries, can come out of poverty, or at least improve standards of living, if they understand this revolution world. Because it is cheaper to create an enabling environment and get kids connected early now, a generation connected to computers, and develop those skills and get them out of poverty, than it is to start building roads, building a whole lot of things. We need all of these things, but tech and this revolution presents a unique opportunity. So it will still remain very expensive, right? For those parents who can afford it, but over time it would get cheaper and cheaper, and there are a lot of free resources online also. But we need to have a lot of partnership from governments, from schools, from countries, from communities, so that everybody can come aboard.
Awesome, right? I was actually about to ask about the support rendered by governments, and I'm glad you mentioned that. So now I think in the beginning stage, in the initial stage, I believe at least governments and also non-profit organizations, I think they play a very crucial role in order to make sure that the underprivileged kids have access to coding classes, have access to at least start learning about all this without waiting until it gets cheaper, which may take some time, and I think they would lag behind when that happens.
Yep.
So now looking at Africa, say Africa, how are the governments? The government initiatives, how are they actually looking into it, and how supportive are they?
Well, a lot of African countries have made a lot of great progress. I'll give you names like Rwanda, right? I'll give you names like South Africa, where I lived for a very long while, right? There's a lot of African countries that are making a lot of good. Ghana, a lot of initiatives in order to be able to create that enabling environment. The reason, and another reason why I think it's very important for them to do that, and I think they need to do more, is because Africans by nature are very entrepreneurial. So it's not just about the jobs that come from outside, but if you create this kind of skills among kids, you're going to have a lot of disruptive entrepreneurs that would come in, create jobs locally, because there's a lot of problems around. And remember that in technology, how do we make money? We make money by solving problems. So more problems, more opportunities. And a lot of African governments are doing that, but there is still a lot that needs to be done. And when I say a lot that needs to be done, I'm saying that there needs to be more conversation, and really making sure that there are more structures that are put in place, where it's not just the government, it's the government saying, hey, who are impacted by this thing in my country? Okay, yes, I have this beautiful IT program going on, but I need to involve those in education. How about I bring them on board? I need to involve parents. How do I get them on board? I need to involve business. How do I get them on board? I need to even involve students who are in university now, because they are most impacted. A lot of students are coming out of varsity now, and they get into the workplace, and the first thing is they suddenly realize that I have a degree but I can't work, because the tools I'm meeting here, none of them looks like anything I was taught in school. How do we bring them on board? How do we bring all of these people and start a conversation that is open and transparent, so that as a country, maybe we can begin to then say, okay, what is our path on how we can gradually, create this environment? Do we have internet penetration within the country? Is it accessible? Can we be able to make sure that every school has internet? What about connectivity and the different gadgets that require, like laptops? Is it possible for us to be able to make those investments so that every child at least is sitting on some kind of a computer, even if it's for 1 hour a week? How about curriculum? When they sit on these computers, do they have the right curriculum that is pointing towards the future, where they can learn stuff that matters, understand what data is, understand what Internet of Things is, understand the technologies that are driving this revolution? Can we start developing these skills so early now? And as they go up, can we partner with higher education to be able to say, how do we observe them? What are your curriculums looking like? Are you also gearing them towards the future? If you have that kind of a conversation in a country, and that gets going, then probably 10, 20 years from today, a big company, any big company in the US will sit down and say, wait a minute, look at Rwanda. We have so many coders in a specific area and there's access to everything. Why don't we go hire people there? Because that's what business does. They follow where they're going to save costs and improve bottom line, right? But if the governments are not doing this and are not creating the enabling environment, and then we will not have those skills. And if we don't develop those skills for kids, then in the next 20 years, the kids will still be behind and poverty will still be a problem. So I really think that Africa stands a very good chance from benefiting from this revolution than any other nation. And mind you, some of the smartest people that I've worked with a lot of, my African folks are from Africa, right? The question is, do they have the enabling environment? And their government
Yes.
has.
Fantastic. I mean, I think it is great to hear that the government is putting in a lot of effort in order to make sure that the kids, especially those who are coming from underprivileged families,
Mhm.
have equal access to these new tools, new skills, especially through free resources out there online, and how kids can actually tap into all these
Mhm.
free resources online, and learn
Mhm.
about making the most out of it, right? So
Mhm.
now, we talk about the skills that children nowadays they need to acquire,
Mhm.
and what parents need to do. But what do you think about the actionable steps that parents can actually take right now,
Mhm.
listening to you,
Mhm.
and also the book, right?
Mhm.
Tell us why you actually decide to donate the proceed of the sales of
Mhm.
your book to charity.
Mhm. All right. Let me talk about what parents can do actionably first, and then I'll come to, to the second part. And for me, the first thing is parents need to seek awareness. This is already part of that. In my mind, I thought, it's about creating awareness, right? Find out what this revolution is all about. Read up about it. We have the largest library out there right in your hands, which is called the internet, right? Uh, Understand what this revolution is, or get a couple of the books so that it's a little bit more focused. Because if we say there's a fourth industrial revolution, that means there was a first, second, third, fourth, and most parents at least understand that there were previous revolutions, and the first one transformed, us into a mechanical society with the invention of, weaving looms. The second one moved us into the assembly line, and the third one moved us into technology. So clearly, this fourth one, there's something different, and that is what parents need to understand, that there is a lot happening now with this fourth revolution, that they need to do something quickly to position their kids, and their communities. That's the first thing. The second thing is, once you're getting that awareness, sit down and start seeking help with other parents, and having a discussion and thinking, what are some of the plans that I can make for my kid, and involve the kids if they are already that age in that conversation. Is very important. You would I learn a lot from my kids, right? Just by involving them in conversation. You would be amazed when you move away from being the parent that teaches to the parent that wants to have a conversation. Then you hear about things that you didn't know. I got up one day
Mhm.
and my friend was like, I'm not going to go to school today. And why? Because today is National Bring Your Guns to School Day on TikTok or something like that. I'm like, what is that? So
Mhm.
their ecosystem is very different from yours. Sit down with them, have a conversation about this, so that together you partner with your kids and have a proper plan around how they are interacting with technology and how best that is preparing them tomorrow, and what challenges they are facing. Number three is make sure they are safe online, by making sure that you are able to put the right structures in place for that to happen, and then get involved a lot in your community, be part of especially when it comes to your schools. Have conversations with the kids, with the teachers in your schools, kids, attend those parent conferences, be there in person, have conversations, and they will talk to you. They will tell you what they're doing about it, and all of that, and raise your concerns, and they might even direct you towards resources, because there are a lot of countries where you already have some of these resources where parents can get support. Find some of those, get that support, so that you're in the best position to be able to support your kid in the best way that you can. But even more importantly for me is get your kid into the code ecosystem. That is very important, right? Because the benefits of coding are amazing. It's not just because they are poised to be standing right in line of what is going to become the largest employment opportunity in the future. It's also because it helps them with maths, it helps them with analytical thinking very young, with problem solving, it helps them build confidence. There's just so many benefits. It's learning a new language, so it's very natural for them to start young, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot parents can do. Then why am I choosing to donate all the proceeds from the book to charity? Because I kind of feel like this is not a conversation. It's not my conversation at all. It's a conversation that really belongs to the kids, especially the underprivileged ones. I was once one, so I understand it, right? So I kind of feel like it's very important that any revenue that's generated by this effort should go towards that. That's something that I really want to do, because I kind of feel like there are a lot of underprivileged kids that just need an opportunity, like I had one, in order to be able to at least change their life one step up. Not to become anything fancy, because I don't think I became anything fancy, but I was able to at least, live a life that was better than the one that could have been, because of that. So it's really donating it towards specifically digital access in education for kids, and making sure that a lot of kids, as much as it's possible from underprivileged backgrounds, should be able to have access to education. It's the intent now, but I'm hoping that as this conversation goes on, we will be able to find friends, partners, big business that is interested in developing skills for kids, because they need it also. That would be able to even bring out more beautiful ways of doing it. But from my experience, I know that for every child that you give them an opportunity and point them in the right direction, you never know what impact they will have on the world. So even if it's starting with one child and that's all that comes out of this effort, that's what I'm willing to do.
Awesome, fantastic. And I think it's so thoughtful of you to actually to be wanting to donate the proceeds for charity, because I think that is you indirectly you are also helping kids to actually, those underprivileged kids, to actually start learning about
Yep.
coding and all these things. So I think it is very meaningful to be channeling the proceeds to charity for a very good noble purpose. So I was actually thinking about when it comes to coding classes, I am actually sharing the page, your page
Mm.
over here, which is
Yep.
icode.edu.com, and then we have this is your website, and people can actually start trial, and it has been supported by CNN, BBC, and many other big names over here, and the instructors are also from top universities. And so tell us a little bit about you have various courses out here. We have divided into a few age groups, 3 to 13, and then 4 to 7. So what are all these, like, how did this start? And tell us about the progress so far that you have gotten.
All right. iCode Edu is actually a program of Frog Tutoring. Frog Tutoring is a tutoring company for kids, and they've been doing tutoring for kids for probably more than a decade now, with thousands of tutors in their database and millions of hours delivered. And iCode is just simply an extension of that, right? And they're well known. They're in the news, like you see a lot. And iCode was just simply a way to say, okay, how are we able to offer coding lessons to kids, that is based on a curriculum that is respectable and a curriculum that makes sense long term, that takes kids from, what we call blocks or scratch, and allows
Mhm.
them to be able to play while they learn, and eventually takes them into mixed code, and eventually takes them into pure code, so that as a kid has this as part of their, probably extracurricular activities before, they are well accompanied in their journey, simply by being part of this ecosystem. So when I looked at this, this is something definitely that I wanted to get involved, and as I got involved, I became more involved with it. And yeah, this is it's a unique curriculum, and most importantly, it's the fact that they're using very repeatable tutors. So what that means for me is that kids will not just have somebody who teaches them coding, but also have mentors, right? Because that's important. You want to know who your kids is spending time with, right? And
Mhm.
so on and so forth. So obviously, it's pricey, like we discussed, because of course that comes, with a cost. But at the same time, what I enjoyed there was the fact that they were willing to come to be able to accompany any form of giving that allowed them to be able to bring on board as many underprivileged kids as is possible. So that's really
Mhm.
where that came from. Yeah.
And here, over here, we have your book, which is Parenting in the Age of Fourth Industrial Revolution. So you have very recently actually published this, like, probably a couple of weeks
Mm,
um, ago. And how far, those family members of yours and friends who have read the book so far,
mm.
what kind of feedback that you've gotten so far from them?
Well, I've been getting a lot of feedback, not just from those who are close, but from very far away, and that has been amazing. Because when I wrote this, it was just my thoughts out there. So, like I said in the beginning, I'm no professional writer, right? Just a concerned parent. And I wasn't expecting, I was just hoping to get a conversation going. But
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing. I've had people call me, from far off, reach out through Facebook and all of that, and say nice things about it, and most especially talk about the fact that it's a very important conversation. But more and more, I'm getting parents who are saying, "I didn't know about this," which for me is like, hey, that's what I wanted to achieve. At least you know now, or you can have a conversation, or you can go find out more about it so that you can start making the right decisions for your kids.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And talking about your book, what is the message that you hope the readers would actually pick from your book after reading it?
The
What's
message
the
that I hope that they would actually pick. I'd want to quote from probably my best author amongst many, George Bernard Shaw, who said, "The people who get on in this world are the people who get up and look for the circumstances they want. If they cannot find them, they make them." It's very
Mhm.
important for parents to help their kids make, that future in a way that is in sync, with what is happening today. And for them to do that, they need to get involved in the conversation around the fourth industrial revolution.
Fantastic. I think we have discussed quite a bit of your book, and we have shared a lot of things from your experience as well in the IT industry, and then how the fourth industrial revolution is changing the whole dimension of the world that we are going to live in the
Mm,
future, especially the kids, the world that they are going to live in.
mm,
And we've had like so many interesting aspects of your book shared as well. I'm so glad to have you today and to share about your book. Thank you for actually joining my show
mm,
today, and to grace my show today and to share your experiences. It has been a wonderful session today.
mm.
So before we end the session today, do you have anything else to tell the audience out there? Anything else that you have missed?
Um, I think I've basically covered most. The only thing probably I would say is that change begins, with one person. You don't need the whole crowd to bring change. I learned that from living and working in South Africa. The spirit of the South African people is one that would always live with me forever. That if you want change, you start doing something about it. Even before you get others to get on board, and collectively we do it. And my wish and my hope for every child is that their parents will get onto these conversations so that they would not be underprivileged in any way.
Fantastic. Very well said, Roland. Thank you so much for joining in today. I hope that those who are watching have benefited from this show, and I believe that there will be more people watching this after the show is over. The replay is going to be available right after we end the live show today on Facebook. It's going to be available for replay, and I will also be putting the video up on YouTube and also Instagram. So I hope that that would encourage more people out there. That would reach out to more people out there and encourage them to start having these conversations. Go check out your book on Amazon. I have actually shared the screen earlier on, which is right here. This is where people can actually check out the book Parenting in the Age of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Check this book out on Amazon and buy them, because the proceeds will go for charity. Good, which is a good thing. So, and with that, I hope that more people will be picking up your book, and I hope to see you in some other shows, upcoming shows, have you as my guest. Hopefully we will touch base again to talk about your book, or maybe if you have other plans of writing more books, then that will be really amazing. um, to talk about your upcoming projects, and it's been a really great time talking to you. Thank you for joining, Roland, and hoping to see you again next time. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.